Today we're going to look at the king. We're going to look at how the king moves and different things you want to think about in a chess game regarding your king. The king is the most important piece in a chess match. If your king dies, you lose the match. So it's very important, even though he doesn't move as much as some of the other pieces and can't capture as much as some of the other pieces, he's still the most important piece. If he goes down, you lose. So you always want to make sure that you have king safety. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the movement. The movement of a king can move one space in any direction. He can move backwards, he can move diagonal, side to side. Anyway, he can move one square at a time. So, early on, you want to make sure that your king is safe, because there's a lot of pieces out on the board, a lot of ways for him to get attacked. As you can probably tell, right now our king is exposed. He's out in the middle. This is probably not good. You can probably tell if you compare this to our king here, our king is a lot safer here. But if you were to take all the pieces off the board, then the king becomes much more powerful. If all the pieces aren't here, then our king can move around. Let's take a look at this example. Here, our king can become an attacker. He can get into the action. There's no way for the pawns at the moment to really have a serious threat to our king. So later on in the game, once pieces start falling from the game, you can then get your king involved, and you want to have your king involved in the end game. He can become a very valuable asset to your attack against your opponent, and also helping defend some of your attacking pieces. You can use your king, but early on you want to make sure that you have king safety. It's very important, especially when all the pieces are roaming around the board trying to attack your king. You want to make sure he is safe and secure. Now let's go over what is a check. You may say, I'm not really sure what a check is. A check basically is anytime your king is being attacked. So let's say we look at this position. Let's say white captures on f7. We are attacking the king on e8. He has to move, or he has to capture this piece on f7. The king at the end of this turn can no longer be attacked, so he cannot move his pawn to h6 because he's being attacked. Now he can move to f8, or he can take this piece on f7. Either way, he has to get himself out of check. Now if he has another piece, let's say we'll go ahead and add a bishop, it is completely okay for him to take with another piece. As long as he gets himself out of check, as long as his king is no longer under attack, then that's completely fine. Now another thing you want to look at is something called stalemate. And stalemate is when the king cannot move and it's his turn. So we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Let's get this set up here. Let's say it's white's move. And white moves his king to e6. Now it's black's move, and if you look at it, he has no squares where he can go. He can't move to d8 or f8 because the pawn can capture, and he can't move to d7 or f7 because his king can capture, and he can't capture the pawn because the king will capture it. The black has no moves, and so this is a stalemate, basically meaning it's a draw. And a lot of times you'll see this even with a lot of pieces. You can have, one side could have a queen, a rook, two bishops, and the other side can just have a king, and the game can end in a draw. And it's very frustrating if you've ever come across it, where you have a complete winning position and you get into a spot where black cannot make any legal moves, meaning he can't move anywhere that his king won't die. You want to try to avoid these, so always make sure when you're playing that you move so that the black king can move. So in this situation, we would simply move up our king to f6. He can't move to f8. He can't move to f7 because our king is here and our pawn is attacking the f8 square. The only square he has to go is d7, and then we can bring our king to f7. And now the king has to retreat again. He can't move back to e8 or d8 because we're attacking with our pawn and our king. And once he moves, then remember we can promote with our pawns, and we can promote to, let's say, a queen. Now we have an easy endgame that we can win with king and queen versus king. Whereas before, we made a fatal flaw of putting black into a position where he could not move. So this is how the king moves. Early on in the game, you want to make sure he's protected. Later on in the game, you want to bring him into the battle and use him as an attacker. Hope this helped in your games, and enjoy.